supply has doubled and rents have decreased by 20% overnight. How do you like them apples? An expression that supposedly came from World War I because Allied anti-tank grenades were referred to as toffee apples. And you can kind of guess where the saying kind of came from, as it was a kind of a taunt to the Germans. And here's me thinking that that quote actually came from Good Will Hunting. You learn something new every day. But it's also how the idea for this video started. A message I received from a contact on LinkedIn read, "How do you like them apples?" with a link to a tweet explaining how Buenos Aries in Argentina successfully decreased its rent by 20% practically overnight. Buenos Aires' housing crisis is potentially 100% worse than Dublin, and a 20% drop in rental prices doesn't go anywhere to solve the housing crisis in Argentina, but it does potentially point to a potential solution. First off, the level of poverty has increased at an alarming level in Argentina, and it is estimated that nearly 40% of the population live in poverty. More than 3 out of every 10 people lack basic housing, including conditions of overcrowding, lack of access to drinking water, sanitation service. Many of the roads are now dirt roads. The Argentinian economic landscape has undergone a severe battering in recent years and has suffered a major housing crisis, with inflation running as high as nearly 200% or 211% in recent years. Tenants in particular have borne the weight of this crisis because they have struggled to keep up with ever escalating rents. The story of Argentinians' economic collapse goes back years, but perhaps for this video and the purpose of this video, this story goes back as far as July 2020, when a new rental law was introduced or enacted, which set a minimum term of 3 years for leases and also tied rents to be adjusted with salary increases or inflation rates. The law, like in many countries, led to a reduction in supply and an increase in Airbnb. But this rental law was pretty much just ripped up a few weeks ago, causing major uproar with tenant groups and causing many protests as well. And this is all because the new president plans to eliminate or change some 300 regulations as part of an economic shock therapy. Argentinians' new right-wing president announced sweeping changes and sweeping measures to deregulate the whole economy in Argentina. Javier Milei took office in December and is changing some 300 regulations by emergency decree, changes he deems necessary to help repair his country's hamstrung economy. The changes include dropping laws and regulations from the Argentina rental market, supermarket suppliers. It also removes restrictions of privatization of state enterprise. He advised that the goal is to start along a path to rebuild the country and to start undoing a huge amount of regulations that have held back and prevented economic growth. This economic shock therapy that the president is saying is necessary to rebuild a country which has been saddled with debt and has suffered close to 140% year-on-year inflation. The president has warned that conditions for 40% of Argentinians currently in poverty will likely be worse before they're better. And this is a hard decision for any politician or any leader to make. The president's justification of these sweeping changes is probably rooted in his libertarian stance against the state intervention on public affairs. However, his moves will have significant impacts and disadvantages for a large amount of Argentinian citizens. So how does this in any way solve the housing crisis in Ireland or other countries? Or what can we learn, or what can we take from this? The Argentinian housing crisis is a global issue. It's the same issues that many countries are facing in terms of increased costs, lack of supply, people having issues with Airbnb and landlords, and also a huge amount of over-regulation. Argentinians' issues are compounded by the scale of inflationary pressures and political unrest. But has Argentina just provided a working case study to help solve the housing crisis around the world? And that is something that we're going to have to watch very carefully. After rental laws were dismantled in Argentina a few weeks ago, supply of apartments in cities like Buenos Aires have already doubled. Critics will suggest that some of the supply is coming from landlords evicting tenants, but a lot of the supply is really coming back from Airbnb units coming back and vacant units coming back as well. And prices have already dropped by nearly 20% in a few weeks. This proves again that rental caps do not benefit renters and ultimately destroy the rental market. Argentina is on its knees. Many tried to regulate for better, but ultimately made things worse. It took voting in a far-right president to rip up the rule book and start all over again, which is not going to fix anything overnight, but it has resulted in the doubling of rental units available within some cities and a 20% drop of rental prices as well within a few weeks. And this is a clear signal that over-regulation is not the answer. Ireland is in danger of regulating the rental and property market out of existence. Argentina should be seen as a warning. We don't want to get into a situation where we're throwing all the rules out or ripping them all up. But over-regulation only worsens the situation for renters and first-time buyers. This one thing or leaning far too right is not the solution, but it shines a light on where the solution might come from. We need a lot of things to happen to get housing right, but perhaps one of the biggest changes we need to make is a mindset change. We have to stop thinking with limited resources or a limited mindset. We have to stop hamstringing one sector in the hope that another sector will grow, or pitting commercial against residential. We have to look at it from an unlimited perspective. There is lots of land, there's lots of resources, and we can get the labour if we look in the right places. Believing we don't have enough land, enough resources, or enough labour will only limit our beliefs and limit the outcome. This mindset change is perhaps one of the most important factors the country needs right now to address the housing market. We definitely have enough land, we have enough resources, and we can get enough labour. We have to start thinking along those lines. If you found this video interesting, please like and share it. There are over 200 videos on real estate on this channel, so consider subscribing, and as always, thanks for watching.